15 years ago, a wealthy heir crushed a young woman's heart with words that would haunt them both forever. Today she's about to return the favor.
You're not the kind of woman I could ever build a life with. You'll never be a mother to my children.
She vanished that summer, taking with her a secret that would change everything. Now, on his wedding day, she's back.
Hello, Cameron. I'd like you to meet Micah and Malaya, your children.
That's impossible.
You told me I'd never be good enough to be the mother of your children. Well, I've been their mother for 14 years.
One revelation, one shattered wedding, and suddenly the man who thought he had everything realized what he'd lost. Will Cameron fight for the family he never knew existed? Can Amira forgive the man who broke her heart? And what happens when a love that was supposed to be buried forever refuses to stay dead? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. Amira West stared at the wrinkled invitation in her hands. The fancy gold lettering announced the wedding of Cameron Blaine to Sabrina Vale at St. Mark's Church in Atlanta. She hadn't been invited, of course. The invitation had been sent to her aunt, who'd passed away just 3 days ago. "Mom, are you okay?" Malaya's voice pulled Amira from her thoughts. Her 14-year-old daughter stood in the doorway of her aunt's bedroom, concern written across her young face. "I'm fine, sweetheart." Amira tucked the invitation into her pocket. "Just going through some of Aunt Janice's things." Malaya nodded, her dark curls bouncing around her shoulders. "Micah and I finished packing our stuff. When are we heading back home?" "Tomorrow afternoon." Amira ran a hand through her own curls, now streaked with a few strands of early gray. At 30, she sometimes felt decades older. Raising twins alone would do that to a person. As Malaya left the room, Amira pulled out the invitation again. Cameron Blaine. The name still made her heart skip a beat, even after 15 years, even after what he'd done to her. "You're not the kind of woman I could ever build a life with. You'll never fit in, and you'll never be a mother to my children." His words had cut deeper than any knife. She'd been just 15, working at his family's lakeside estate that summer. He was 22, handsome, rich, and so charming that she'd believed every sweet nothing he'd whispered in her ear, until his mother found out, until he chose his inheritance over her. What Cameron never knew was that Amira had been carrying his children when he broke her heart. Twins. A boy and a girl who had his eyes, his smile. She never told him. Pride, maybe. Or fear, or simply the knowledge that a man who could dismiss her so easily didn't deserve to know her children. "Mom." This time it was Micah calling from downstairs. "There's someone at the door." Amira wiped away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen and went downstairs. An older woman with steel gray hair stood in the doorway, dressed in expensive clothes that screamed old money. "Can I help you?" Amira asked. The woman's eyes widened slightly. "Amira? Amira West?" Amira felt her body go cold. "Yes? I thought that was you at the funeral. I'm Margaret Thompson, Janice's friend from the garden club." The woman extended a gloved hand. "I just came by to drop off a casserole. It's what we do." "Thank you." Amira accepted the dish, eager to close the door. "I didn't know you were back in town," Margaret continued. "Last I heard you'd moved up north after everything with the Blaines." Amira forced a smile. "Just here to settle Aunt Janice's affairs." Margaret's gaze drifted past Amira to where the twins were sitting in the living room. Her eyes narrowed, then widened with recognition. "Those children," she began. "My children," Amira said firmly. "They look just like." "It was nice of you to stop by, Mrs. Thompson." Amira began closing the door. "Please give my regards to the garden club." Once the door was shut, Amira leaned against it, heart pounding. It was only a matter of time before word spread. Atlanta's old money circles loved nothing more than gossip, and twins who looked exactly like Cameron Blaine would be the talk of the town by dinner time. "Who was that?" Micah asked, not looking up from his phone. "Just one of Aunt Janice's friends." Amira set the casserole on the hall table. "Nothing important." But it was important. Margaret Thompson was bound to tell someone what she'd seen, and that someone would tell someone else, until eventually, the news would reach the Blaines. Maybe it was time. Maybe after 15 years of secrets, the truth needed to come out. "Kids, I need to talk to you about something." Amira sat down between her twins on the couch. "It's about your father," Micah finally looked up from his phone. What about him? You never talk about him. I know. And that's not fair to you. Amira took a deep breath. Your father lives here in Atlanta. His name is Cameron Blaine. The real estate guy, Malaya asked, surprised. His picture is on billboards all over town. Amira nodded. We were together a long time ago before you were born. He doesn't know about you. He doesn't know. Micah's voice cracked with anger. Why not? It's complicated, honey. Amira reached for his hand, but he pulled away. That's what adults always say when they don't want to explain themselves. Micah stood up. Did he dump you or something? The accuracy of his guess made Amira wince. Yes, he did. His family didn't approve of me. Because you weren't rich enough, Malaya asked quietly. Something like that. Amira sighed. I found out I was pregnant after we broke up, and I never told him. Why are you telling us now? Micah demanded. Amira pulled the invitation from her pocket. Because he's getting married tomorrow, and I think it's time he knew about you both. The next morning, Amira stood in front of the bathroom mirror, applying lipstick with a shaky hand. She hadn't slept all night, torn between what was right and what was easy. The easy thing would be to pack up and leave Atlanta, go back to their life in Philadelphia where no one knew their history. But the right thing was harder to define. Are you sure about this? Malaya asked, appearing in the doorway in a simple blue dress. Amira capped her lipstick. No, but I think it's necessary. What if he doesn't want to know us? Malaya's voice was small. Amira turned to her daughter, seeing the vulnerability beneath the teenage bravado. Then that's his loss. You two are the best things that ever happened to me. If he's too blind to see how amazing you are, then he doesn't deserve to be in your lives. Micah appeared behind his sister, uncomfortable in the dress shirt and tie. Amira had insisted he wear. I still think this is a bad idea. Noted. Amira smiled at her son, so like his father in looks, but with a kindness Cameron had never possessed. But we're doing it anyway. The drive to St. Mark's Church was silent. Amira's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. What was she doing? Was she really about to crash a wedding? To announce to a church full of Atlanta's elite that the groom had fathered her children 15 years ago? Yes, she was. Because Micah and Malaya deserved to know where they came from. And because Cameron deserved to know what he'd missed, what he'd thrown away. The church parking lot was filled with luxury cars, Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, Mercedes, the kind of cars that cost more than what Amira made in a year as a nurse. Fancy, Micah muttered as they got out of their rental car. These people have more money than sense, Amira replied, smoothing down her simple black dress. It was the only nice thing she'd packed, meant for her aunt's funeral, not for confronting her ex. They stood at the bottom of the church steps, watching as well-dressed guests filed inside. Amira recognized some faces from her youth, aging socialites who'd looked down their noses at the help, businessmen who'd patted her head like she was a pet. Mom. Malaya squeezed her hand. We don't have to do this. Amira squeezed back. Yes, we do. They climbed the steps together, a united front. At the church doors, an usher in a tuxedo stopped them. Bride or groom? He asked with a practiced smile. Neither, Amira replied honestly. We need to speak to Cameron before the ceremony. The usher's smile faltered. I'm afraid Mr. Blaine is not receiving visitors. The ceremony begins in 20 minutes. It's an emergency, Amira insisted. I'm sorry, but what seems to be the problem? A deep voice interrupted. Amira turned to see an older man with Cameron's eyes and jawline. Gregory Blaine, Cameron's father. These people are trying to see the groom, sir, the usher explained. Gregory's eyes narrowed as he studied Amira. Do I know you? Amira West, Mr. Blaine. I worked at your lake house one summer, a long time ago. Recognition dawned in his eyes, followed by suspicion. Amira, yes, I remember now. His gaze shifted to the twins, and he paled visibly. And who are these young people? Your grandchildren, Amira said softly. Gregory's face hardened. I think you should leave. Not until they meet their father. Amira stood her ground. This is preposterous. Security. Gregory called. What's going on? A woman's sharp voice cut through the tension. Eleanor Blaine, Cameron's mother, appeared at her husband's side, elegant in a silver gown. Her eyes landed on Amira. then the twins, and her face went slack with shock. Eleanor Amira nodded in greeting. "You have some nerve showing up here," Eleanor hissed. "After all these years." "I'm not here to cause trouble," Amira said. "I just think Cameron should meet his children before he gets married." "Don't you?" Eleanor's gaze darted between Micah and Malaya, unable to deny the obvious resemblance. "This is as absurd. How dare you bring these imposters to my son's wedding?" "Imposters?" Micah stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes, Cameron's eyes. "Lady, we didn't even know who our father was until yesterday. We're not here to scam anybody," Micah, Amira warned, placing a restraining hand on her son's shoulder. "What's all this commotion?" Another voice joined the fray. Amira's heart stuttered in her chest as Cameron Blaine himself appeared in the church doorway. He was older, of course, lines at the corners of his eyes, a touch of silver at his temples, but still heartbreakingly handsome in his wedding tuxedo. His eyes found Amira's, and time seemed to stop. "Amira." "Hello, Cameron." Her voice was steadier than she felt. "What are you doing here?" He moved toward her, confusion written across his face. "Don't, Cameron," his mother warned. "She's trying to ruin your wedding." Cameron ignored her, his attention now fixed on the twins. The color drained from his face as understanding dawned. "Who are they?" "This is Micah and Malaya," Amira said. "They're 14 years old, and they're your children." A gasp rippled through the small crowd that had gathered around them. Cameron staggered back as if he'd been struck. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Is it?" Amira challenged. "Look at them, Cameron. Really look at them." And he did. He stared at his children, at Micah's guarded expression so like his own, at Malaya's dimpled smile that mirrored the one he saw in the mirror every day. "You were pregnant," his voice cracked. When we? Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" Amira laughed bitterly. "You told me I'd never be good enough to be the mother of your children. Remember? I figured that meant you didn't want to be their father either." The church doors opened again, and a beautiful woman in a designer wedding gown appeared. Sabrina Vale, the bride, took in the scene with cold, calculating eyes. "What's going on, Cameron?" she demanded. "The minister says we're running late." Cameron couldn't tear his eyes away from the twins. "Sabrina, there's been a complication." "A complication?" Sabrina followed his gaze, then looked back at him with growing horror. "Who are these people?" We're his kids." Malaya spoke up, her chin raised defiantly. "Nice to meet you." Sabrina's perfectly made-up face contorted with rage. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" "I wish it were," Eleanor cut in. "This woman is trying to extort money from us, obviously." "I don't want your money," Amira said firmly. "I never have. I just think my children deserve to know their father, and he deserves to know them." Right before his wedding, Sabrina shrieked. "You couldn't have picked a different day. We just found out yesterday," Micah said, his voice dripping with teenage disdain. "Chill out, lady." Sabrina turned to Cameron, fury in her eyes. "Did you know about this?" Cameron shook his head, still staring at the twins in disbelief. "No, I had no idea." "Well, you'd better figure it out." Sabrina yanked off her veil. "Because I'm not standing at that altar until you do." She stormed back into the church, leaving an awkward silence in her wake. "We should talk privately," Cameron finally said, finding his voice. "Not here, not like this." "Fine," Amira agreed. "Where?" "The bride's room is empty now," Gregory suggested, his businessman's mind already working on damage control. "You can use that." Cameron nodded and led the way, his parents following close behind. Amira and the twins trailed after them, ignoring the whispers and stares of the wedding guests. The bride's room was lavishly decorated with flowers and champagne. A half-empty glass sat on the vanity where Sabrina had been preparing. "Sit down," Eleanor ordered once the door was closed. "We'll stand, thanks," Amira replied coolly. Cameron ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Amira remembered from their time together. "I can't believe this. Twins? I have twins." "Yes, and you never thought to tell me." His shock was turning to anger. 15 years, Amira. 15 years. You made your feelings pretty clear when you dumped me." Amira shot back. "What was I supposed to do? Beg you to care about us? You should have given me the choice, like you gave me a choice." Amira felt 15 years of repressed anger bubbling to the surface. You told me I wasn't good enough for you, Cameron. You said I'd never fit into your world. Well, guess what? I built my own world, and it's been just fine without you. Micah stepped forward. Can you two fight later? This is weird enough without you rehashing ancient history. Cameron looked at his son, really looked at him for the first time. You're right, I'm sorry, this must be strange for you. That's one word for it, Malaya muttered. We need proof, Eleanor cut in. A DNA test. These children could be anyone's. Amira laughed. Look at them, Eleanor. They're the spitting image of your son. Appearances can be deceiving, Gregory said coldly. If you're so confident you won't object to a test. I don't object, Amira replied. But I didn't come here for your approval, or your money. I came because my children deserve to know their father. Cameron moved closer to the twins, studying their faces with wonder and fear. You're really mine, biologically, I guess. Micah shrugged, but there was hurt beneath his nonchalance. But you haven't exactly been around. I didn't know, Cameron whispered. I swear I didn't know. A knock at the door interrupted them. The wedding planner poked her head in, looking flustered. Mr. Blaine, the guests are getting restless, and Miss Vale is, well, she's threatening to leave. Cameron closed his eyes briefly. Tell her I'll be right there. When the door closed again, he turned back to Amira. I need to deal with this. With Sabrina. Will you wait, please? We need to talk more. Amira hesitated, then nodded. We'll wait, but not here. We'll be at Janice West's house, my aunt. You remember where it is? I remember, Cameron said softly. As they turned to leave, Malaya suddenly spoke up. Were you ever going to tell us? If we hadn't found that invitation, would we ever have known who our father was? Amira looked at her daughter, seeing the hurt and confusion in her eyes. I don't know, honey. I really don't know. They left the church the same way they'd entered, but everything had changed. The truth was out now, for better or worse, and nothing would ever be the same again. Back at Aunt Janice's house, Amira sat on the porch swing, waiting. The twins were inside, processing in their own ways. Micah angrily playing a game on his phone, Malaya quietly reading a book. Would Cameron come, or would he go through with the wedding, choosing his perfect society bride over the complicated reality of the children he never knew he had? As the afternoon sun began to set, a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. Cameron stepped out, still wearing his tuxedo pants and shirt, but the jacket and tie were gone. He looked rumpled and exhausted. Amira stood as he approached the porch. What happened to your wedding? Cameron stopped at the bottom of the steps, looking up at her with red-rimmed eyes. There is no wedding. Sabrina left. Can't say I blame her. I'm sorry, Amira said, and meant it. Despite everything, she hadn't come to ruin his life. Are you? Cameron climbed the steps slowly. Is that why you showed up today? To stop my wedding? No. Amira sat back down on the swing. I came because my aunt died, and because it was time for the truth to come out. Cameron sat beside her, the swing creaking under their combined weight. 15 years, Amira. Why now? Because they're asking questions I can't answer anymore. Because they deserve to know where they come from. Because. She trailed off. Because what? Amira looked at him, this man she'd once loved so desperately. Because I saw your face on a billboard yesterday, and I realized I was tired of keeping the secret. Cameron laughed humorlessly. That damn billboard, my mother's idea, building Atlanta's future, it says. Funny, considering I didn't even know I had a future beyond today's wedding. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared past and unknown future hanging between them. They hate me, don't they? Cameron finally asked. They don't know you, Amira corrected. They can't hate someone they don't know. But you told them about us, about what happened, the basics, that we were together, that your family didn't approve, that you ended it. Cameron winced. Did you tell them what I said to you? Those awful things? No. Amira shook her head. Some wounds don't need to be reopened. Inside the house, a light came on as the evening darkened. Through the window, they could see Malaya moving around the kitchen. She looks like you, Cameron observed. around the eyes, but she has your smile, Amira replied, and your talent for math. She wants to be an engineer. And Micah, all you, stubborn, proud, fiercely protective of the people he loves. Amira smiled sadly. He's the one you'll have to work hardest to win over. I want to know them, Amira. Cameron's voice broke. I want to be in their lives. That's up to them now, Amira said. I've made my peace with the past, but they're old enough to decide for themselves if they want a relationship with you. Cameron nodded, understanding the boundaries she was setting. Can I meet them properly? Talk to them. Amira stood. They're inside. Come on. As they walked toward the house, Cameron reached for her hand. Amira hesitated, then allowed the brief contact. I'm sorry, he whispered, for everything. I know, Amira replied, opening the door to a future none of them had imagined just 24 hours ago. Now prove it. The kitchen was quiet except for the ticking of Aunt Janice's old clock on the wall. Micah leaned against the counter, arms crossed, while Malaya sat at the table, fidgeting with her water glass. Cameron stood awkwardly in the doorway, still in his rumpled wedding clothes. Kids, this is Cameron, Amira said, breaking the uncomfortable silence. Your father. Cameron cleared his throat. It's good to meet you both. Officially, Malaya offered a small smile. Micah just nodded, his face giving nothing away. Would anyone like some tea? Amira asked, moving toward the kettle. Or coffee? I'm good, Micah muttered. Tea would be nice, Cameron said, grateful for something normal in this surreal situation. Malaya got up to help her mother, giving Cameron a chance to study his daughter up close. She had his dimples, his height, but her expressions, her mannerisms, those were all Amira. So Cameron tried again, sitting at the kitchen table. Your mum tells me you're interested in engineering, Malaya. She nodded, bringing him a mug of tea. Yeah, I like math and physics. I want to build things someday. That's great. I studied business and architecture in college. The designing part was always my favorite. Before you took over the family business, Micah asked, a hint of challenge in his voice. Cameron nodded. Yes. Before that, did you want to take over the business, I mean? Malaya asked, genuinely curious. Cameron glanced at Amira, who was watching silently from the counter. Not really. I wanted to design buildings, not just sell them. But family expectations are powerful things. We wouldn't know, Micah said pointedly. Cameron winced. I deserved that. You didn't know about us, Malaya reminded her brother. Doesn't change the fact that we grew up without a father. Micah pushed away from the counter. I'm going to my room. Micah, Amira said, a warning in her voice. It's okay, Cameron said quickly. He has every right to be angry. He'll come around, Malaya said after her brother left. He just needs time. Cameron looked at this wise young girl, his daughter, with wonder. You seem to be handling this better than he is. Malaya shrugged. I've always wondered about you. Micah pretended he didn't care, but I knew he did. I would have been there, Cameron said softly. If I'd known. Would you? Amira asked, joining them at the table. Really? Cameron met her eyes. Yes, despite what I said back then, despite how terribly I treated you, I would have stepped up for my children, even if it meant going against your mother. Amira challenged. Cameron's phone buzzed in his pocket before he could answer. He glanced at it and grimaced. Speaking of, that's her. Again, I should take this. He stood up. Do you mind if I? Amira gestured toward the living room. Go ahead. Cameron stepped out of the kitchen, leaving Amira alone with Malaya. I like him, Malaya said quietly. Amira raised an eyebrow. You just met him. I know, but he seems I don't know. Not what I expected. What did you expect? Malaya thought for a moment. Someone colder, more stuck up. She glanced toward the living room, where they could hear Cameron's muffled voice. He looked sad. He just lost his fiancée and gained 2 teenage children in the span of a few hours. Amira pointed out. That would make anyone sad. Do you hate him? Malaya asked suddenly. For what he did to you? Amira sighed, reaching across the table to squeeze her daughter's hand. I did for a long time, But hate takes too much energy to maintain for 15 years. Now I don't know. I guess I'm neutral. Liar, Malaya said with a small smile. You still feel something for him, I can tell. When did you get so perceptive? Amira deflected. I've always been perceptive. You just never noticed because you were too busy working double shifts to pay for our braces. Amira laughed. Fair enough. In the living room, Cameron was having a much less pleasant conversation. Mother, I can't talk about this right now, he said, pacing across the faded carpet. When do you plan to talk about it? Eleanor Blaine's sharp voice came through the phone. After the Vale family pulls out of our Henderson development. After your face is plastered all over the tabloids. Do you have any idea what you've done to this family today? What I've done? Cameron's voice rose before he caught himself and lowered it again. What about what you did, Mother? You knew I was seeing Amira that summer. You're the one who insisted I break it off. She was a child, and the help, for God's sake. She was 15, I was 22. Yes, it was inappropriate. I see that now, but we were together, and when you found out, you didn't just make me end it. You made me crush her. Oh please, Eleanor scoffed. I simply reminded you of your responsibilities to this family. You threatened to disinherit me if I didn't end things with her in a way that would ensure she never came back. Cameron hissed. So I said terrible things to her. Things I've regretted for 15 years. And now look what's happened. She's shown up with these children, claiming they're yours. Have you even considered the possibility that she's lying? That this is some kind of extortion scheme? Cameron glanced toward the kitchen, where he could see Malaya laughing at something Amira had said. The girl's smile, his smile stretched across her face. They're mine, Mother. One look at them and it's obvious. Appearances can be deceiving. I'm getting a DNA test if that's what you're worried about. But I don't need one to know the truth. Cameron sighed. Look, I need to go. We'll talk about damage control tomorrow. Cameron. He hung up, shoving the phone back in his pocket. When he turned around, Micah was standing in the hallway watching him. Your family doesn't want us, huh? The boy asked flatly. Cameron ran a hand through his hair. My mother is complicated. She's worried about appearances, about the business, not about you. In her mind, those things are the same. Cameron moved toward his son. But it doesn't matter what she thinks. You and your sister are my children. That's what matters to me. Micah studied him skeptically. For how long? Until your fancy friends start whispering behind your back. Until your stock prices drop because the boss has two bastard kids from the wrong side of the tracks. Don't talk about yourself that way, Cameron said sharply. You are not a bastard kid. You're my son. Am I? Or am I just an obligation now? A PR problem to manage. Micah, save it. The boy cut him off. I've gone 14 years without a father. I don't need one now. Cameron watched helplessly as Micah disappeared back up the stairs. This wasn't going to be easy, but nothing worth having ever was. Back in the kitchen, he found Amira washing dishes while Malaya dried them. Everything okay? Amira asked, seeing his expression. My mother is being herself, Cameron replied. And Micah caught the tail end of our conversation. Amira handed him a dish towel. Make yourself useful. The three of them worked in silence for a few minutes, falling into a rhythm that felt strangely comfortable. So what happens now? Malaya finally asked. We go back to Philadelphia tomorrow. And you? What? Send birthday cards. Visit on holidays. Cameron looked at Amira. I don't know. That's something we all need to figure out together. The twins have school, Amira said, and I have a job. We can't just uproot our lives. I understand that. Cameron set down the glass he was drying. But I want to be part of their lives, whatever that looks like. Amira nodded slowly. We'll figure something out. Can I? Cameron hesitated. Would it be okay if I took them out tomorrow, before you leave, just to get to know them a little? That's up to them, Amira said. Malaya. The girl nodded eagerly. I'd like that. And Micah, I'll talk to him, Malaya offered. He'll come around. Thank you, Cameron said, meaning it. He glanced at his watch. I should probably go. It's getting late, and you all have had a long day.
"Where are you staying?" Amira asked as she walked him to the door. "The Peachtree Hotel, downtown." "My parents' house isn't exactly a welcome space right now." "What about your place?" "Too many wedding gifts to return," Cameron said with a grimace. "I'll deal with all that tomorrow." At the door he turned to face her. "Thank you, Amira, for bringing them here, for letting me meet them." "I didn't do it for you," she reminded him. "I know, but thank you anyway." He hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "Were you ever going to tell me if you hadn't found that invitation?" Amira leaned against the doorframe. "Honestly, I don't know. I'd convinced myself that not telling you was the right thing, that you'd made your choice, and we were better off without you." "Were you better off?" "We survived," she said simply. "The twins are amazing kids, smart, kind, resilient. I'm proud of the job I've done with them." "You should be." Cameron stepped closer. "I'm sorry I wasn't there to help." "You're here now," Amira said. "That's what matters going forward." Their eyes held for a long moment, 15 years of unspoken words passing between them. Finally Cameron nodded and stepped back. "I'll pick them up at 10 tomorrow, if that works." "10 is fine. Good night, Amira." "Good night, Cameron." She watched as he walked to his car, shoulders slumped with the weight of the day. Part of her, the part that still remembered the pain of his rejection, wanted to feel vindicated by his suffering. But mostly, she just felt sad for all the years they'd lost. Upstairs, she found Micah in his room, headphones on, staring at the ceiling. "Hey," she said, sitting on the edge of his bed. "You okay?" He pulled off the headphones. "Sure, why wouldn't I be? I just met my father, who didn't want me 15 years ago, and probably doesn't want me now." "That's not true," Amira said gently. "He didn't know about you 15 years ago, and he does want to know you now, because he has to, because we showed up and ruined his perfect life."
Nobody's life is perfect, honey, not even rich people's. Micah sat up. Are we supposed to feel sorry for him? Poor little rich boy with his mansion and his billions? No, but maybe try to understand that he's as shocked by all this as you are. Amira touched his cheek. "He wants to take you and your sister out tomorrow. Before we leave, I don't want to go." "I think you should," Amira said. "Just give him a chance, Micah. If not for his sake, then for yours. Don't you want answers to all those questions you've had over the years?" Micah was quiet for a long moment. "Will you come too?" Amira shook her head. "No. This is about you and Malaya getting to know your father. I'd just complicate things. What if he says something bad about you? Then you'll know what kind of man he is." Amira replied. "But I don't think he will." "Fine," Micah finally agreed. "I'll go, but I'm not promising to like him." "That's fair." Amira kissed his forehead. "Get some sleep. It's been a long day." In her own room, Amira sat on the edge of the bed, emotions washing over her in waves. Seeing Cameron again had stirred up feelings she thought she'd buried long ago. Anger, hurt, and something else. Something she wasn't ready to name. Her phone buzzed with a text message. "Cameron, thank you for today. For everything. They're incredible kids. You've done an amazing job." Amira stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Finally she typed, "Amira, they are amazing, and they're curious about you. Just don't let them down." His response came quickly. "Cameron, I won't. I promise." Amira set the phone aside, not trusting herself to continue the conversation. Tomorrow would be complicated enough without reopening old wounds tonight. The next morning, Amira woke to the sound of voices downstairs. She glanced at the clock, 9:45. Cameron would be there soon. She dressed quickly and went downstairs to find Malaya helping Micah with his tie. "You don't need to dress up," Amira said, surprised. "Malaya said we should look nice," Micah grumbled. "Since he's taking us somewhere fancy, probably." "You look very handsome," Amira told her son. "Both of you look great." "Are you sure you won't come with us?" Malaya asked. "I'm sure. I have things to do here. Aunt Janice's lawyer is coming by to go over the will." The doorbell rang at exactly 10 o'clock. Cameron was nothing if not punctual. "I'll get it," Malaya said, rushing to the door. Cameron stood on the porch, looking more put together than he had the night before. He'd traded his rumpled wedding clothes for khakis and a blue button-down that matched his eyes that lit up when he saw Malaya. "Good morning," he said with a smile. "You look lovely." "Thanks," Malaya beamed. "So do you. I mean, you look nice, not lovely. That would be weird." Cameron laughed, and the sound made Amira's heart twist unexpectedly. She'd forgotten that laugh. "Ready to go?" he asked, as Micah appeared in the hallway. "As ready as I'll ever be," Micah replied. "We'll have him back by 3. Cameron told Amira. "So you have time to pack before your flight." "Thank you." Amira handed Malaya her purse. "Have fun, and behave yourselves." "We will," Malaya promised, practically bouncing with excitement. As they left, Amira couldn't help but feel a pang of something like jealousy. For 14 years she'd been their whole world. Now they were sharing part of themselves with someone else, someone who had once broken her heart. She busied herself with packing and paperwork, trying not to watch the clock. At one point her phone buzzed with a text from Malaya, a selfie of the 3 of them at the Atlanta Aquarium, Malaya beaming, Micah almost smiling, and Cameron looking happier than Amira had seen him in years. The lawyer came and went, leaving Amira with news that Aunt Janice had left her the house and a small savings account. It wasn't much, but it was more than she'd expected. As she was sorting through the last of her aunt's personal papers, the doorbell rang again. She opened it to find Eleanor Blaine standing on the porch. "Mrs. Blaine," Amira said, surprised. "Cameron's not here." "I know, I saw them leave." Eleanor stood rigidly in her designer suit. "May I come in?" Amira hesitated, then stepped aside. "Of course." Eleanor entered the modest home with barely concealed disdain. "Quaint, just like I remember." "What can I do for you, Mrs. Blaine?" Amira asked, not bothering with small talk. "You can take your children and go back to wherever you came from." Eleanor's tone was icy. "And leave my son alone." Amira crossed her arms. "That's not going to happen. Those children are Cameron's, and he has a right to know them. After 15 years, please." Eleanor scoffed. "You've managed just fine without him until now. What changed?" "Money problems." "I don't want your money." "Everyone wants money, dear." Eleanor walked around the living room, inspecting the worn furniture. "Name your price. How much will it take for you and those children to disappear from our lives?" Amira stared at the older woman in disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Perfectly. Cameron has responsibilities, a future. The Blaine name means something in this town, and my children would tarnish that name." Amira felt her anger rising. "They're his blood, Mrs. Blaine. Whether you like it or not. Blood isn't everything." Eleanor pulled out her checkbook. $1 million, tax-free. "All you have to do is sign a non-disclosure agreement, and promise never to contact Cameron or any member of our family again. Get out," Amira said quietly. $2 million then. I said get out. Amira's voice rose. "I don't want your money. My children aren't for sale." Eleanor put her checkbook away slowly. "You're making a mistake. Cameron will tire of playing daddy very quickly. Then where will you be? Back in your little life, with 2 disappointed children who got a taste of what they could have had. At least they'll know their father cared enough to try," Amira replied. "Now please leave before they get back." Eleanor moved toward the door, then turned. "He loved her, you know. Sabrina, they were perfect for each other. If they were so perfect, she wouldn't have left him at the first sign of trouble," Amira pointed out. She was blindsided, humiliated. What woman wouldn't walk away? "A woman who truly loved him," Amira said simply. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "And you think you know what love is? A girl who seduced a grown man when she was barely 15. I didn't seduce anyone. We fell in love. It was real, even if it didn't last. It wasn't love, it was a summer fling that went too far." Eleanor reached for the door. "This isn't over, Amira. Not by a long shot." After she left, Amira sank onto the couch, trembling with anger and old pain. Some things never changed. Eleanor Blaine was still the same cold, calculating woman who'd destroyed her life 15 years ago. But Amira wasn't the same naive girl she'd been then. She was stronger now, and she wouldn't let Eleanor hurt her children the way she'd been hurt. At 3 o'clock a car pulled into the driveway. Amira composed herself and went to the door. The twins spilled out of Cameron's car, both talking at once. "Mum," We went to the aquarium and saw whale sharks. Malaya exclaimed. And then we had lunch at this steakhouse where they cook the food right in front of you. Micah added, more animated than Amira had seen him since they arrived in Atlanta. Sounds like you had fun, Amira said, relieved. It was great, Malaya confirmed. Dad says he'll come visit us in Philadelphia next month. If that's okay with you. Amira glanced at Cameron, who was standing awkwardly by his car. We'll talk about it. Why don't you two go finish packing? Our flight leaves in a few hours. Once the twins were inside, Amira walked over to Cameron. They seem happy. I hope so. We had a good time. He hesitated. I meant what I said about visiting, if you'll allow it. Of course. They're your children too. Amira took a deep breath. Your mother came by while you were out. Cameron's face darkened. What did she want? To buy me off. $2 million to take the kids and disappear from your life. I'll kill her, Cameron muttered. I'm so sorry, Amira. It's not your fault. Amira shrugged. She's just trying to protect you. In her own twisted way. I don't need her protection. Not from my own children. Cameron ran a hand through his hair. I'll talk to her. Make it clear that the twins are part of my life now. Good luck with that, Amira said with a small smile. She's a formidable woman. So are you, Cameron replied, his eyes holding hers. You always were. The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken feelings. I should go help the kids pack, Amira finally said. Right, of course. Cameron stepped back. When does your flight leave? 6:30. Can I drive you to the airport? Amira hesitated. I've already called a cab. Cancel it, Cameron said. Please, it'll give me a little more time with them. She should say no. Keep things simple, but the hope in his eyes made her nod. Okay, thank you. His smile was warm, genuine. I'll be back at 5. As he drove away, Amira wondered if she was making a mistake. Getting Cameron involved in their lives after all these years could lead to complications she wasn't ready for, especially when seeing him still made her feel things she thought she'd buried long ago. Inside, she found the twins in Micah's room, showing each other pictures they'd taken at the aquarium. So, she said, leaning against the doorframe, looks like you had a good time with your father. He's not what I expected, Micah admitted. He's actually kind of cool. He asked a lot of questions about us, Malaya added, like he really wanted to know everything, and he didn't say anything bad about you, Micah said. In fact, he said he was the one who messed up back then, not you. Amira felt a weight lift from her shoulders. I'm glad you got along with him. He said he's coming to visit next month, Micah said. Is that okay? Of course. He's your father. He should be part of your lives. But what about you? Malaya asked. Is it weird for you to see him again? Amira sat on the edge of the bed. A little. We have a complicated history. Do you still have feelings for him? Malaya pressed. No, Amira said quickly. Too quickly. That was a long time ago. We're different people now. He still looks at you, Micah observed. When you're not paying attention, that's enough matchmaking, Amira said with a forced laugh. We need to finish packing. Cameron's driving us to the airport at 5. He is. Malaya's eyes lit up. That's great. It's just a ride to the airport, Amira warned. Don't read too much into it. But as she went to her own room to pack, Amira couldn't help wondering if there might be something still there between them. A spark of what they once had, or at least the possibility of forgiveness. At 5 o'clock, Cameron returned as promised. He helped load their bags into his SUV, and insisted on carrying Aunt Janice's antique clock that Amira wanted to take home. Are you sure you want to leave so soon? He asked as they drove toward the airport. You could stay a few more days, get to know each other better. We have school on Monday, Malaya said from the back seat. And Mom has work. Of course, Cameron nodded. I just hate to see you go when we've barely had time together. You'll visit soon, Micah reminded him. Right. Absolutely. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. At the airport, Cameron insisted on accompanying them to the security checkpoint. He hugged both twins tightly, making them promise to call when they landed. And you'll video chat with us this weekend? Malaya asked. Every weekend, Cameron promised, and any weeknight you want. When it was time to say goodbye to Amira, He hesitated, then leaned in for an awkward hug. "Thank you," he whispered against her hair, "for giving me a chance to know them." "They're giving you the chance," Amira corrected him. "Don't waste it." "I won't." He pulled back, his hands lingering on her arms. "Take care of yourself, Amira. You too, Cameron." As they walked through security, Amira felt the weight of his gaze on her back. She didn't turn around, couldn't trust herself to see his face without revealing the confusion in her heart. On the plane, with the twins asleep beside her, Amira stared out the window at the Atlanta skyline disappearing below them. So much had changed in just 2 days. The secret she'd carried for 15 years was finally out in the open. What that meant for their future, she couldn't begin to guess. But for the first time in a long time, Amira felt something like hope. Life in Philadelphia quickly returned to its familiar rhythm. Amira went back to her nursing shifts at the hospital. The twins resumed school and their after-school activities. On the surface, everything was normal. But underneath, everything had changed. Every night at 8 o'clock, Cameron called. Sometimes he spoke with the twins for hours about their day, their friends, their dreams. Other times, the conversations were awkward and stilted. But he never missed a call. "He's really trying," Malaya said one evening after hanging up. "He wants to know everything about us." Amira looked up from the bills she was sorting at the kitchen table. "That's good. You deserve that attention. He asks about you too," Malaya added casually. "Does he?" Amira kept her voice neutral. Asks how you're doing. If you need anything." Malaya studied her mother's face. "You never want to talk to him when he calls." "I talk to him," Amira protested. "Saying hello and goodbye doesn't count as talking, Mom." Amira sighed. "It's complicated, sweetheart. Because you still have feelings for him. Because we have history," Amira corrected. "And not all of it is good." Malaya sat across from her mother. "He's coming next weekend. You can't avoid him then." "I'm not avoiding him. I'm just..." Amira struggled to find the right words. "I'm giving you guys space to build your own relationship with him." Aha. Malaya clearly didn't believe her. "Well, Micah and I were thinking maybe we could all go out to dinner when he's here. Like as a family." The word family made Amira's heart twist. "We'll see." The next day, Amira was organizing supplies in the hospital storage room when her phone rang. The Atlanta area code made her hesitate before answering. "Hello, Amira, it's Gregory Blaine." Amira nearly dropped the phone. In 15 years, Cameron's father had never once spoken to her directly. "Mr. Blaine, this is unexpected." "Yes, well," he cleared his throat. "I was hoping we could talk about the children." "What about them?" "The DNA results came back yesterday. They confirmed what we already knew. They're Cameron's." Amira bit back a sarcastic response. "I'm aware of who their father is, Mr. Blaine." "Of course." He paused. "I'm calling because I'd like to meet them. Properly this time." "You want to meet them?" Amira couldn't hide her surprise. "The last time we saw each other, you were calling security to throw us out of your son's wedding. That was unfortunate. But they are my grandchildren. My only grandchildren." Amira leaned against the shelving unit. "Does Cameron know you're calling me?" "Not yet. I wanted to speak with you first, man to man. Or well, you know what I mean." "Why now, Mr. Blaine? Is this your idea or your wife's?" There was a long pause. "Eleanor doesn't know I'm calling. She's struggling with the situation." "You mean she's still trying to find ways to get rid of us?" Amira's voice hardened. "She offered me $2 million to disappear." "I heard." Gregory sounded tired. "That was wrong of her. But you have to understand, this has all been quite a shock. Imagine how shocked I was 15 years ago when your son told me I'd never be good enough to be the mother of his children, right after I found out I was pregnant." Another pause. "I'm sorry for that. Truly, Cameron was wrong, and so were we for pressuring him." Amira was speechless. An apology was the last thing she'd expected from Gregory Blaine. "I'm flying to Philadelphia next week with Cameron," he continued. "I'd like to meet my grandchildren then, if you'll allow it. That's not entirely up to me. Micah and Malaya are old enough to decide for themselves if they want to meet you." "Of course, I understand." Gregory cleared his throat again. "There's something else. I've set up trust funds for both of them.
For college and beyond. I should have done it 14 years ago. We don't need your money, Mr. Blaine. It's not about need, Amira. It's about what's right, what's owed. His voice softened. They're Blaines. Whatever happened between you and Cameron, between you and our family, the children deserve their birthright. Amira closed her eyes. I'll talk to them about meeting you. That's all I can promise. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. He hesitated. For what it's worth, Cameron speaks very highly of you, of the job you've done raising them. After hanging up, Amira sat in the storage room for a long time, her mind spinning. First Cameron wanted back in their lives, and now his father. What next? Would Eleanor show up on her doorstep with another checkbook? That evening, she told the twins about Gregory's call. Grandparents. Micah looked skeptical. We've never had those before. Well, my parents died before you were born, Amira reminded him. And now you have a chance to know your father's parents, even though they're the ones who made him dump you. Micah challenged. Amira sighed. It's complicated, honey. People make mistakes. They can change, like Dad changed. Malaya asked. Maybe. Amira wasn't sure what to believe anymore. Your grandfather wants to meet you when he comes with your father next weekend. It's up to you both if you want to see him. What about the grandmother? Malaya asked. Is she coming too? No. Apparently she's still adjusting to the news. You mean she still hates us? Micah translated. She doesn't hate you. She doesn't even know you. Amira reached across the table to squeeze his hand. But she's a proud woman who cares a lot about appearances. And we weren't part of the plan. Well, I want to meet my grandfather, Malaya declared. And the grandmother too, eventually. Their family. Micah rolled his eyes. Since when are you so big on family? We've been fine with just the three of us for 14 years. Things change, Micah. Malaya gave him a pointed look. Besides, you like Dad now. Don't pretend you don't. Micah shrugged, but didn't deny it. The nightly calls with Cameron had slowly worn down his defenses, especially when Cameron had sent them both new laptops for schoolwork, though Micah mostly used his for gaming. I'll think about meeting the grandfather, Micah finally said, but I'm not promising anything. The week passed quickly. Amira picked up extra shifts at the hospital, partly for the money, and partly to keep her mind off Cameron's impending visit. But thoughts of him kept intruding. Memories of their time together years ago, mixed with newer images. The look on his face when he first saw the twins. The gentle way he'd hugged Malaya goodbye at the airport. On Friday night she arrived home late from work to find both twins still up, cleaning the apartment frantically. What's going on? She asked, setting down her purse. Dad called. Malaya explained, dusting the TV for the third time. Their flight lands at 9 tomorrow morning, instead of noon. He wanted to know if they could come straight here, to the apartment. Amira looked around their modest home with new eyes. The furniture was worn but clean, the space small but cozy. Nothing like the luxury the Blaines were used to. Is that okay? Malaya asked, seeing her mother's expression. I told him it was fine. Of course it's fine. Amira forced a smile. It's just we should probably go grocery shopping if we're having guests. Already done, Micah called from the kitchen, where he was organizing the refrigerator. Malaya and I went after school. We got stuff for pancakes because Dad mentioned he likes to cook breakfast. He cooks. Amira couldn't hide her surprise. He said he's been teaching himself, Malaya explained, to impress us. The thought of Cameron Blaine, heir to a real estate empire, learning to cook pancakes for his children, made Amira's heart twist in a way she wasn't prepared for. Well, that's thoughtful of him. You should wear that blue dress tomorrow, Malaya suggested casually. The one that matches your eyes. Amira raised an eyebrow. I was thinking jeans and a t-shirt would be fine. Mom, Malaya groaned. Make an effort, please. For what? It's just Cameron and his father coming to see you too, not me. Right, Micah snorted. Keep telling yourself that. Amira chose to ignore the comment. Don't stay up too late cleaning. Everything looks great. But after the twins went to bed, Amira found herself straightening picture frames and fluffing couch pillows. She even dug out some scented candles she'd been saving for special occasions. Not for Cameron, she told herself, just to make the apartment nice for guests. She was definitely not thinking about Cameron when she laid out the blue dress for the next morning. At 9:30 the next day, the doorbell rang. Malaya rushed to answer it, while Micah hung back, trying to look casual despite having changed his shirt 3 times. Cameron stood in the doorway, looking slightly rumpled from the flight but handsome in jeans and a grey sweater. Behind him, Gregory Blaine appeared older and more subdued than Amira remembered. "Hi." Malaya threw her arms around Cameron. "You're here." "I'm here," Cameron confirmed, hugging her back. His eyes found Amira over Malaya's shoulder, and his smile deepened. "Hi." Amira replied, suddenly very aware that she was in fact wearing the blue dress. "Welcome to our home." Cameron stepped inside, taking in the small apartment with genuine interest. "This is nice, really nice." Gregory followed, carrying a large gift bag. He looked uncomfortable. "Thank you for having us, Amira." "Grandpa, this is Malaya." "Grandpa, this is Malaya." Cameron made the introduction. "And that's Micah." "Hello," Gregory said, his voice gruff with emotion. "It's good to meet you both." "Properly this time." Micah nodded, but stayed where he was. Malaya, always more outgoing, stepped forward to shake Gregory's hand. "Nice to meet you too, Grandpa." The words seemed to hit Gregory like a physical. His eyes grew suspiciously bright. "I brought you both something." He held out the gift bag. "Just a small welcome to the family." Malaya took the bag and peered inside. "Wow, Micah, look." She pulled out 2 small velvet boxes. Inside each was an antique gold pocket watch, engraved with the Blaine family crest. "These have been in our family for generations," Gregory explained. "Each Blaine child receives one when they're born. Yours are overdue." Micah approached cautiously, examining the watch with grudging interest. "This is really old." "About 200 years, Gregory confirmed. "Your great-great-great-grandfather brought it over from England when he immigrated." "Thank you," Malaya said sincerely. "It's beautiful." "Yeah, thanks," Micah added, still studying the watch. "There's something else in there," Gregory said. Malaya reached back into the bag and pulled out 2 thick envelopes. "What's this?" "Trust fund paperwork," Gregory explained. "I've set aside money for both of you, for college primarily, but also for whatever else you might need." Amira stiffened. "Mr. Blaine, I told you on the phone." "I know what you said," Gregory interrupted gently. "But this isn't about you or me or even Cameron. It's about giving these children what they deserve as Blaines." "We're Wests," Micah said suddenly. "Our last name is West." An awkward silence fell. Gregory looked stricken. "Of course," he finally said. "You're Wests, and I respect that. But you're also Blaines by blood, and that means something too." Cameron cleared his throat. "Why don't we talk about this later? I was promised I could make pancakes." "Yes." Malaya seized the chance to break the tension. "Dad's going to cook for us. Come on, I'll show you the kitchen." As the twins led Cameron and Gregory toward the kitchen, Amira stayed behind, trying to process what had just happened. The watches were one thing, family heirlooms were meaningful. But trust funds, that felt too much like Gregory trying to buy his way into their life. In the kitchen, Cameron was already rolling up his sleeves, examining the ingredients the twins had bought. "Perfect," he declared. "Who wants to help?" "I will," Malaya volunteered. "Me too," Micah said, surprising everyone. Amira watched from the doorway as Cameron showed the twins how to mix the batter, his movements uncertain but enthusiastic. Gregory sat at the small kitchen table, looking out of place in his expensive suit but smiling at the domestic scene. "Coffee," Amira offered, deciding to be a gracious hostess despite her reservations. "Please," Gregory said. "Black." As she prepared the coffee, Amira stole glances at Cameron with the twins. He was patient, encouraging Micah when he flipped a pancake too forcefully and splattered batter on the counter. He laughed at Malaya's jokes, asked questions about their school, remembered details from their phone conversations. He was trying, really trying. "He's good with them," Gregory observed quietly, as Amira handed him his coffee. "Yes," she admitted. "Better than I expected. He's been a different person since he met them." Gregory continued, focused, purposeful. "I haven't seen him like this in years." "What about Sabrina?" Amira couldn't help asking. "Has she?" No, she's moved on, already dating some hedge fund manager from New York. Gregory shook his head. It wasn't real with her, not like. He trailed off, but Amira knew what he was implying. Not like it was with you. That was a long time ago, she said softly. We were different people, were you? Gregory studied her over his coffee cup. The way he talks about you, it doesn't sound like his feelings have changed. Before Amira could respond, Malaya appeared with a plate stacked high with slightly misshapen pancakes. Breakfast is served. They gathered around the small kitchen table, the conversation flowing more easily than Amira had expected. Gregory told stories about Cameron as a child, his fear of thunderstorms, his determination to build the world's tallest Lego tower. The twins shared school anecdotes and inside jokes that made Amira realize how quickly they'd bonded with their father over their nightly calls. After breakfast, Cameron suggested taking the twins to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. They have a special exhibit on modern architecture that I thought Malaya might like. Given her interest in engineering, can Mom come too? Malaya asked. Cameron looked at Amira. Of course, if she wants to. I have some errands to run. Amira hedged. But you three go ahead. I have some business calls to make myself. Gregory added. Perhaps I could use your living room, Amira. She nodded, seeing through his transparent attempt to get her alone. Of course. After Cameron and the twins left, Gregory settled on the couch with his phone. But instead of making calls, he turned to Amira. I owe you an apology, he said directly, for how we treated you 15 years ago. Amira sat across from him, surprised by his candor. You were protecting your son. We were protecting your son. We were protecting our lifestyle, Gregory corrected. Our image, our plans for Cameron's future. We never stopped to consider that he might have found something real with you. I was 15, Mr. Blaine. He was 22. It wasn't appropriate. No, it wasn't, Gregory agreed. But our response wasn't about propriety. It was about class, about keeping Cameron on the path we'd laid out for him. The path that led to Sabrina, Amira observed, and a marriage that never happened. Gregory sighed. We pushed him away from what might have been real toward what we thought was suitable. I'm not proud of that. Why are you telling me this now? Because I see how he looks at you, and how you look at him when you think no one's watching. Gregory leaned forward. There's still something there, Amira, something worth exploring. Amira shook her head. It's not that simple. We have the twins to consider, and 15 years of separate lives. Life is rarely simple, Gregory acknowledged. But sometimes it gives us second chances, if we're brave enough to take them. The conversation shifted to safer topics after that, but Gregory's words lingered in Amira's mind. Was there still something between her and Cameron? And even if there was, could they overcome their complicated history? When Cameron returned with the twins several hours later, they were loaded down with gift shop bags and talking excitedly about everything they'd seen. Mom, they had this amazing exhibit on bridges. Malaya gushed. Dad explained how the different designs work and which ones can hold the most weight.
And they had this old sword collection, Micah added, from like medieval times. Sounds like you had fun. Amira smiled, pleased to see them so animated. We did, Cameron confirmed, his eyes finding hers, though it would have been better if you'd been there too. That evening, Cameron took them all out to dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. Gregory insisted on paying, waving away Amira's protests. Let me do this, he said. For my family. The word hung in the air, loaded with meaning. Family. Were they that now? This odd collection of people brought together by old pain and new beginnings. After dinner, back at the apartment, the twins showed Cameron and Gregory their rooms, their school projects, their treasured possessions. It was strange and wonderful to see how easily they included these men in their lives, as if filling a space that had always been waiting. When it was time for Cameron and Gregory to leave for their hotel, Malaya hugged them both tightly. Even Micah allowed a brief, awkward embrace. We'll see you tomorrow. Cameron promised. Maybe we could go to the park if the weather's nice. At the door he hesitated, then pulled Amira into a quick hug. Thank you, he whispered. For today, for everything. His closeness sent a jolt through her that she wasn't prepared for. She stepped back quickly. flustered. You're welcome. Good night, Cameron. After they left, Amira found herself touching the spot on her arm where his hand had rested. The warmth lingered, as unwelcome as it was undeniable. The next day brought more family activities, a trip to the park, ice cream at the twins' favorite shop, a movie at the local theater. Amira joined them this time, unable to resist Malaya's pleading and her own growing curiosity about this new, improved version of Cameron. He was different from the boy she'd known, more thoughtful, less entitled. He listened when others spoke, admitted when he didn't know something, showed genuine interest in the twins' lives, and he watched Amira when he thought she wasn't looking, with a mixture of regret and hope that made her heart race. Sunday afternoon came too quickly. Cameron and Gregory were due to fly back to Atlanta that evening. I wish you could stay longer, Malaya said, as they gathered in the living room for goodbyes. Me too, sweetheart, Cameron replied, but I'll be back in a few weeks, and we'll talk every night. And you can come visit us in Atlanta during your spring break, Gregory added. Both of you. Your grandmother will have come around by then. Micah looked skeptical. You sure about that? No, Gregory admitted with a wry smile, but I'm hopeful, and if not, we'll figure something out. After the twins had said their goodbyes and gone to their rooms, Malaya to hide her tears, Micah to process his conflicted feelings, Cameron turned to Amira. Can we talk? Just for a minute. She nodded, leading him to the small balcony off the living room. Gregory tactfully became very interested in a family photo on the bookshelf. Outside, the autumn air was crisp. Amira wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly nervous. What's on your mind? She asked, trying to sound casual. Cameron leaned against the railing. Everything. The twins. You. The past 15 years. He took a deep breath. I can't stop thinking about what might have been, Amira. If I hadn't been such a coward back then. We can't change the past, Cameron. No, but we can learn from it. He turned to face her fully. I know this is complicated. I know we have the twins to consider, but I need to ask, do you ever think about us? About what we had? Amira looked away. Sometimes. And it was a long time ago, she said softly. We were different people. Were we? Because the way I feel when I'm around you, it's not so different from how I felt back then. Older maybe, wiser, I hope. But the core of it, that hasn't changed. Amira's heart pounded in her chest. What are you saying, Cameron? I'm saying that I'd like a chance to see if there's still something between us, something worth exploring. Because of the twins? No, because of you. He stepped closer. The twins are part of it, of course. They're part of us. But even if they weren't, I'd want to know the woman you've become. Amira looked up at him, searching his face for signs of the boy who'd broken her heart. But all she saw was a man, flawed, uncertain, but sincere. I don't know, Cameron. It's not just about us. The twins are finally getting to know their father. Adding, whatever this is, might complicate things, or it might make things better, he suggested. Give them a chance to see what a real relationship looks like, one based on mutual respect and honesty. Is that what this would be? I hope so. Cameron reached for her hand. I'm not asking for promises, Amira. Just openness to possibilities. His fingers were warm against hers, familiar and strange at once. I need time to think about this. Take all the time you need. He squeezed her hand gently. I'm not going anywhere, not again. Inside, Gregory cleared his throat loudly. Cameron, we should head to the airport soon. The moment broken, they returned to the living room. Cameron hugged her goodbye, a lingering embrace that felt different from the casual hug of the previous night. I'll call you, he promised. Not just to talk to the twins. After they left, Amira sat alone on the balcony, watching the sunset paint the Philadelphia skyline in shades of gold and pink. Her mind was a tangle of past and present, of old wounds and new possibilities. Could she trust Cameron again? Could she risk her heart, knowing what he was capable of? And more importantly, what would it mean for Micah and Malaya if she did? Her phone buzzed with a text message. Cameron, made it to the airport. Dad can't stop talking about the twins. Says they're the best thing to happen to our family in generations. I think he's right. Before she could respond, another message appeared. Cameron, I meant what I said earlier, about us. No pressure, just think about it. Amira stared at the screen, her finger hovering over the keyboard. Finally, she typed, "Amira, I will." It wasn't a promise, but it wasn't a rejection either. It was a beginning of what she wasn't sure yet. Inside, she found Malaya in the kitchen, making tea. "You okay, honey?" Amira asked, noting her daughter's red-rimmed eyes. "Yeah, just, it was nice having them here, having Dad here." Malaya handed her mother a mug. "It felt like how families are supposed to be." "We've always been a family," Amira reminded her. "The three of us, I know, but now it's different. Bigger." Malaya studied her mother's face. "You like him, don't you?" "Dad, I mean." Amira sighed. "It's complicated. Adults always say that." Malaya rolled her eyes. "But I saw how you looked at him, and how he looked at you. Whatever happens between your father and me, it won't change how much we both love you and Micah. You know that, right?" Malaya nodded. "I know, but for what it's worth, I think you should give him a chance." "Why's that?" "Because he makes you smile. Like really smile. Not the fake one you use when you're pretending everything's okay." Amira hadn't realized her daughter was so observant. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise," Malaya grinned. "You just never noticed, because you were too busy working double shifts to pay for our braces." Amira laughed, hugging her daughter close. Whatever happened with Cameron, whatever the future held, she had these moments, these children, and that was enough, for now. 3 days later, Amira was changing out of her scrubs after a long shift when her phone rang. The hospital's main number flashed on the screen. "Hello, Miss West, this is security. There's someone here asking for you. Says she's family." Amira frowned. "Who is it?" "A Mrs. Blaine, Eleanor Blaine." Amira nearly dropped the phone. "Eleanor Blaine is at the hospital." "Yes, ma'am. Shall I send her up?" "No, tell her I'll be right down." Heart pounding. Amira finished changing and made her way to the lobby. What was Eleanor doing in Philadelphia? And how had she found out where Amira worked? Eleanor Blaine sat primly on a vinyl couch in the waiting area, looking as out of place in her designer suit as a peacock in a chicken coop. She stood when she saw Amira. "There you are, finally, Mrs. Blaine." Amira kept her voice neutral. "This is unexpected." "Yes, well, desperate times call for desperate measures." Eleanor clutched her handbag like a shield. "Is there somewhere we can talk privately?" Amira led her to a small courtyard outside the hospital, where a few metal tables sat empty in the cool afternoon air. "What brings you to Philadelphia, Mrs. Blaine?" Amira asked once they were seated. Eleanor straightened her already perfect posture. "My family, my son, specifically, and my grandchildren." "Your grandchildren?" Amira couldn't hide her surprise. "That's a change of heart. Don't misunderstand me. I still think this situation is unfortunate. But Gregory tells me the DNA test confirmed what was already obvious. Those children are Blaine's. They're West's," Amira corrected automatically. "By name perhaps, but blood is blood." Eleanor opened her handbag and pulled out a folder. "I've had our family lawyers draw up these papers. They're an amendment to the trust funds Gregory set up." "We don't want your money," Amira began. "This isn't about money," Eleanor interrupted. "It's about names, about legacy." She slid the folder across the table. Amira opened it reluctantly. "Name change documents," she read, confused. "For the children, to add Blaine as a hyphenated surname. West Blaine." Eleanor's voice was clipped, businesslike. "It would make things easier for everyone." "Easier for whom?" "Certainly not for Micah and Malaya, who have gone by West their entire lives. For the family, for the business, eventually." Eleanor folded her hands on the table. "Cameron has been different since he met them. Focused, driven. He's talking about bringing them into the company someday, if they're interested. They're 14, Mrs. Blaine. They don't know what they want to do with their lives yet. Perhaps not, but they should have options. The Blaine name opens doors." Amira closed the folder. "This isn't about their names. This is about control, your control." Eleanor's mask slipped for a moment, revealing a flash of vulnerability. "My family is changing, Amira. My son looks at me differently now. My husband questions decisions we made together. My grandchildren, my only grandchildren, don't even know me. And whose fault is that?" Amira asked quietly. Eleanor ignored the question. Cameron is different with you. I can hear it in his voice when he talks about you. We share children, that's all, is it? Eleanor's gaze was piercing. Because he's cancelled the Henderson development to spend more time in Philadelphia. He's talking about opening a branch office here, about splitting his time between Atlanta and here. This was news to Amira. He hasn't mentioned any of that to me. No, he wouldn't. Not until he had everything arranged. Eleanor leaned forward. I know my son Amira. When he wants something he pursues it relentlessly. And you think he wants me? Amira couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. I think he never stopped wanting you, even when he convinced himself otherwise. Eleanor's expression was unreadable. The question is, what do you want? I want what's best for my children. And what about what's best for you? Eleanor pressed. Do you still have feelings for my son? Amira stood up. I don't think that's any of your business, Mrs. Blaine. It becomes my business when it affects my family. Eleanor remained seated, perfectly composed. I came here to understand what I'm dealing with, to see if you're still the same girl who turned my son's head all those years ago. I'm not a girl anymore, Amira said firmly. I'm a woman who raised 2 children alone because your son was told to choose between me and his inheritance. And now he doesn't have to choose. Eleanor's voice softened slightly. The question is, will you make him choose between his children and you? What are you talking about? If you reject him, and let's be honest, you have every right to, he'll still want to be in the children's lives, but it will be awkward, strained. Is that what you want for them? Amira felt anger rising in her chest. Are you suggesting I should date your son for the sake of the children? I'm suggesting you consider all angles before you make a decision. Eleanor stood, smoothing her skirt. The trust fund papers are in there too, as is my private number. Call me when you've thought things through. She turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, you did a good job with them. The children. Gregory says they're impressive. It was as close to a compliment as Eleanor Blaine had ever given her. Thank you, Amira said stiffly, but I didn't do it for your approval. No, you did it because you love them. Eleanor met her eyes, and so does Cameron. Remember that. After Eleanor left, Amira sat in the courtyard for a long time, the folder untouched on the table in front of her. Just when she thought her life was settling into a new normal, Eleanor Blaine had to show up and complicate everything. Her phone buzzed with a text message. Cameron, just booked my flight for next weekend. Can't wait to see you all. Followed by another Cameron, especially you. Amira stared at the screen, Eleanor's words echoing in her mind. When he wants something, he pursues it relentlessly. The question was, what did Amira want? And was she brave enough to reach for it? For the next month, Amira's life settled into a new rhythm. Cameron visited every weekend, flying in Friday evening and leaving Sunday night. The twins eagerly anticipated his visits, planning activities and saving stories to share with him. And with each visit, the careful distance Amira tried to maintain between herself and Cameron grew smaller. It started with small things. Coffee on Saturday mornings while the twins slept in, walking together behind Micah and Malaya at the mall, lingering conversations after the kids went to bed. Cameron never pushed, never presumed, but his eyes followed her around the room. His hand found excuses to brush against hers, and slowly, almost against her will, Amira found herself looking forward to his visits as much as the twins did. You're falling for him again, her friend Lisa said bluntly over lunch in the hospital cafeteria. It's written all over your face. Don't be ridiculous, Amira protested. We're co-parenting, that's all. Co-parenting doesn't make you blush every time your phone buzzes with a text. Lisa raised an eyebrow. And it definitely doesn't make you wear lipstick to work on Fridays because you know he's coming. Amira touched her lips self-consciously. It's complicated. It's actually pretty simple, Lisa countered. You never got over him, and now he's back being all perfect dad and making eyes at you. He hurt me once, Amira reminded her, badly. 15 years ago, when he was a kid under his parents' thumb. Lisa reached across the table to squeeze Amira's hand. People change, honey. The question is, are you brave enough to give him a second chance? That question haunted Amira as she drove home that evening. Cameron would be arriving in a few hours for his usual weekend visit.
But this time would be different. He was staying for a whole week, having arranged to work remotely so he could attend the twins' school science fair. As she pulled into the apartment parking lot, Amira was surprised to see an unfamiliar car in her spot. A sleek black SUV with Georgia plates. Cameron wasn't due for hours, unless he'd caught an earlier flight. Inside the apartment, she found not Cameron, but Eleanor Blaine sitting primly on her couch. The twins were nowhere to be seen. "Mrs. Blaine," Amira said, setting down her purse. "This is a surprise, is it?" Eleanor looked around the apartment with barely concealed judgment. "I told you I'd be in touch. Where are my children?" "At the movies with their grandfather. He wanted to spend some time with them before Cameron arrives." Eleanor stood. "We need to talk, Amira. I thought we already did. At the hospital. That was just a preliminary discussion." Eleanor moved to the window, looking out at the modest neighborhood. "I've been watching Cameron these past few weeks, flying back and forth every weekend, talking about the twins constantly, neglecting the business. He's getting to know his children," Amira pointed out. "That seems reasonable." "It's more than that." Eleanor turned to face her. "He's building a life here, with them, with you." Amira crossed her arms. "Is that a problem?" "It could be." Eleanor's voice was measured. "For all of us. What do you want, Mrs. Blaine?" "I want what's best for my family, all of my family." Eleanor sat back down, "Including apparently you and the children." Amira stared at her in surprise. "That's not what I expected you to say." "It's not what I expected to say either." Eleanor sighed, a rare show of vulnerability. "But I've had time to think, and to observe." "Observe what?" "My son. How he lights up when he talks about the twins. How he checks his phone constantly for your messages." Eleanor smoothed her skirt. "He hasn't been this alive in years." Amira sat across from her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I was wrong. 15 years ago, and again when you came to the wedding." Eleanor met her eyes directly. "I was so focused on what I thought was right for Cameron, that I couldn't see what actually made him happy. Which is, you." Eleanor said it simply. "It's always been you. Even when he was with Sabrina, even when he dated all those society girls I pushed at him, none of them made him look the way he does when he talks about you." Amira didn't know how to respond. This wasn't the Eleanor Blaine she remembered. "I've made mistakes," Eleanor continued. "Terrible ones. I forced my son to hurt someone he loved. I missed 14 years with my grandchildren. And now I risk losing my son completely if I don't make this right." "Make what right?" "Everything." Eleanor reached into her purse and pulled out a small box. "Starting with this." She placed it on the coffee table between them. Amira stared at it, not touching it. "What is that?" "Open it," Eleanor urged. With hesitant fingers, Amira lifted the box and opened it. Inside was a diamond ring. Antique and elegant, with a center stone surrounded by smaller sapphires. "This was my grandmother's," Eleanor explained. "It's been in the Blaine family for generations. Every Blaine bride has worn it." "I don't understand," Amira said, closing the box quickly. "Cameron asked for it last week. He said he was finally going to give it to the woman it was always meant for." Amira's heart pounded in her chest. "He's planning to propose, so it seems." Eleanor took the box back. "The question is, what will you say?" "I don't know," Amira admitted. "It's too soon. We've only just reconnected. The twins are still adjusting." "The twins adore him," Eleanor countered. "And as for time, hasn't 15 years been long enough?" Before Amira could respond, the front door opened. Micah and Malaya burst in, followed by Gregory Blaine. "Mom, you're home early," Malaya exclaimed, then stopped short when she saw us. Eleanor. "Oh, hi." "Hello, Malaya," Eleanor said, standing. "Micah, it's good to see you both again." The twins exchanged wary glances. Their last encounter with Eleanor hadn't exactly been pleasant. "Children, this is your grandmother," Gregory said, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "Eleanor Blaine, we know who she is," Micah said coolly. "She tried to throw us out of Dad's wedding." Eleanor flinched at the memory. "Yes, that was unfortunate. I was hoping we might start over." "Why?" Micah challenged. "Because Dad's spending time with us now. Because we're officially Blaines." "Micah," Amira warned. "No, He's right to question my motives. Eleanor said, I haven't given any of you reason to trust me. She took a deep breath. But I'm hoping to change that, starting now. She held out a hand to Malaya, who was always the more forgiving of the twins. Would you give your grandmother a chance? Malaya looked at her mother, who nodded slightly. Then, to everyone's surprise, she stepped forward and hugged Eleanor instead of taking her hand. Dad says everyone deserves a second chance, Malaya said simply. Eleanor stiffened momentarily, then returned the hug with awkward sincerity. When they separated, her eyes were suspiciously bright. Thank you, she said softly. Micah maintained his distance, but his expression had softened slightly. Whatever, he muttered, which from Micah was practically a warm welcome. Gregory cleared his throat. We should be going. Cameron's flight lands in an hour, and we promised to pick him. I thought I was getting him, Amira said, confused. Change of plans, Gregory replied with a meaningful look at Eleanor. We'll bring him back here after dinner. Family dinner, all of us, if that's all right with you. Amira understood suddenly. They were giving Cameron time to prepare, to decide when and how to propose, if that was indeed his plan. Of course, she agreed. I'll see you all later. After the Blaines left with the twins, Amira sat alone in the quiet apartment. Her mind spinning. Cameron wanted to marry her. After 15 years, after everything that had happened, he wanted to make her his wife. But was that what she wanted? She thought about the past, about how easily he'd slipped back into her life, about the way her heart still raced when he entered a room, about the future they might build together, with their children. It was terrifying and exhilarating. Her phone buzzed with a text. Cameron, just landed. Dad says they're picking me up. Change of plans. Amira smiled at the screen. Even in a text, she could hear his concern, his consideration. Amira, it's fine. Your parents wanted some time with the kids. See you after dinner. Cameron, can't wait. Missed you. 3 simple words that made her heart flip. Because she'd missed him too, more than she wanted to admit. While the twins were out, Amira found herself cleaning the apartment furiously, changing her clothes twice, and even lighting candles in the living room. Not because she was expecting a proposal, she told herself, just because it was nice to have a clean, pleasant space when guests came over, even guests who might be about to ask you to marry them. At 8 o'clock, headlights swept across the living room as cars pulled into the parking lot. Voices and laughter drifted up from below. The twins animated as always, Gregory's deeper tones, Eleanor's cultured accent, and Cameron's voice, the one that still made Amira's pulse quicken. After all these years, the doorbell rang. Amira took a deep breath and opened it. The whole family stood in the hallway, but her eyes found Cameron immediately. He looked tired from the flight, but his face lit up when he saw her. Hi, he said softly. Hi, she replied, stepping back to let everyone in. The apartment felt suddenly crowded with all the Blaines inside. Malaya was chattering excitedly about the restaurant they'd been to, while Micah carried in bags from what appeared to be an extensive shopping trip. Your mother insisted on buying them some new clothes, Gregory explained to Amira with a wry smile. Something about their spring break visit to Atlanta. That's still months away, Amira pointed out. Apparently proper attire requires advanced planning. Gregory shrugged. You know Eleanor. Indeed, Eleanor was already directing the twins to show off their new purchases, behaving for all the world like a doting grandmother who hadn't offered to pay Amira to disappear just weeks earlier. Throughout the commotion, Cameron stood slightly apart, watching Amira with an intensity that made her breath catch. There was something different about him tonight, a nervous energy, a purpose. Can we talk? He asked quietly, nodding toward the balcony. Privately, this was it, Amira realized. The moment Eleanor had warned her about. Sure, she agreed, leading him outside. The night was cool but clear, the city lights twinkling below them. Cameron stood at the railing, looking out at the view. Your mother came to see me today, Amira said, deciding to get straight to the point. Cameron turned, surprised. She did? Why? I think she wanted to make peace. In her own way, Amira moved beside him at the railing. She's changing, Cameron, or at least trying to, because of the twins, he guessed. Partly, and partly because of you. She's afraid of losing you. Cameron was quiet. For a moment, I never wanted to hurt her or my father, but I can't live my life on their terms anymore. What terms do you want to live on? Amira asked softly. He turned to face her fully. My own, with the people I love. The word hung in the air between them. Love, such a simple word for such a complicated feeling. Cameron, let me say this, he interrupted gently. Please, I've been rehearsing it the whole floor. Amira nodded, her heart pounding. 15 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. Cameron began. I let other people tell me what I wanted, what I needed. I let fear and pride and stupid social expectations keep me from fighting for what really mattered. He took her hands in his. I've regretted it every day since, even when I didn't admit it to myself, even when I was with other women, trying to convince myself I was happy. There was always something missing, someone missing. Cameron, it was a long time ago, Amira said, but her voice trembled. We were different people, were we? Because the way I feel when I'm with you now, it's the same as back then, only deeper, stronger. His eyes held hers. I never stopped loving you, Amira, even when I tried. Tears pricked at Amira's eyes. You hurt me, I know, and I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the box Eleanor had shown her earlier. This was my grandmother's ring. Every Blaine bride has worn it, but it was always meant for you. He dropped to one knee, there on the small balcony of her apartment. Amira, I have loved you since I was 22 years old. I want to spend the rest of my life with you and our children. Will you marry me? Time seemed to stop as Amira looked down at him. This man who had broken her heart and now held it in his hands again. This father of her children. This second chance she never thought she'd have. Are you sure? She whispered. Really sure? Because I can't do this halfway, Cameron. Not with the twins involved. I've never been more sure of anything, he promised. You and the kids are everything to me. Everything. Inside the apartment, Amira was vaguely aware. Faces pressed against the glass. The twins, Gregory, even Eleanor, all watching with bated breath. This wasn't just about her and Cameron anymore. It was about all of them, the family they could be. Yes, she said finally, her voice stronger. Yes, I'll marry you. Cameron's face broke into a radiant smile as he slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if it had been made for her all along. He stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her with 15 years of longing and promise. Behind them, the balcony door slid open, and the twins burst out, followed more sedately by Gregory and Eleanor. Did she say yes? Malaya demanded, bouncing on her toes. Cameron laughed, his arm tight around Amira's waist. She said yes. About time, Micah muttered, but he was smiling too. Welcome to the family, Gregory said, embracing Amira warmly. Officially, Eleanor stepped forward last, her expression a mixture of emotions. May I see the ring? Amira held out her hand, still not quite believing this was happening. The diamond sparkled in the city lights. It suits you, Eleanor said simply. Then to everyone's surprise, she hugged Amira. Take care of him, she whispered. He needs you more than he'll ever admit. I will, Amira promised, returning the hug. Later that night, after the elder Blaines had gone to their hotel, and the twins had finally been persuaded to go to bed, Amira and Cameron sat on the couch, her head on his shoulder, his fingers tracing patterns on her arm. Are you sure about this? She asked again. About us, completely. He kissed her forehead. Are you? I think I am. She looked up at him. But it's all happening so fast. A month ago the twins didn't even know who you were, and now we're a family. Cameron's voice was full of wonder. The family we should have been all along. What about Atlanta? Your business. I'm opening a branch office here. Dad's going to run things in Atlanta. Cameron shifted to look her in the eyes. I've already started looking at houses in the suburbs. Something with a yard space for everyone. Houses, Cameron, we can't afford. I can, he said gently. Let me do this for us, for our family.
Family. The word still felt strange and wonderful. Not just Amira and the twins anymore, but Cameron too. And even Gregory and Eleanor. in their own complicated way. It won't be easy, Amira warned. Blending our lives, dealing with your mother. Nothing worth having ever is. Cameron smiled. But we'll figure it out together. That's what families do. He kissed her then, slow and sweet and full of promise, and Amira let herself believe, truly believe, that second chances were possible. That sometimes life gives you back what you thought was lost forever. 6 months later, Amira stood in the bridal suite of the Blaine family's lakeside estate, looking out at the garden where white chairs were arranged in neat rows. White flower arrangements lined the path to a simple arch overlooking the water. "You look beautiful," Malaya said, adjusting her mother's veil. At 15 now, she was turning into a young woman, poised and graceful in her pale blue bridesmaid dress. "Thanks, sweetheart." Amira smoothed the simple white gown she'd chosen. Not too fancy, not too plain. Just right for a second chance at love. A knock at the door announced Eleanor, elegant in silver grey, a small box in her hands. "May I come in?" Of course, Amira was still getting used to this new, warmer version of Eleanor Blaine. Eleanor approached, opening the box to reveal a delicate pearl necklace. "This was my mother's. I wore it at my wedding, and I thought, perhaps you might wear it today." "Something borrowed," Malaya said with a smile. "Something more than that," Eleanor corrected. "Something that makes you part of our history, part of our family." Tears pricked at Amira's eyes as Eleanor fastened the necklace around her throat. "Thank you." "No," Eleanor said softly. "Thank you. For giving my son the happiness I almost denied him, for raising those remarkable children, for forgiving me when I didn't deserve it." Another knock interrupted the moment. Micah poked his head in, handsome in his groomsman's suit. "It's time, Mom. Dad's waiting, and he looks like he might pass out if you don't get down there soon." Amira laughed, wiping away a tear. "We can't have that, can we?" As they made their way downstairs, Amira felt a strange sense of completion. 15 years ago, in this very house, she'd fallen in love with Cameron Blaine. She'd lost him, found herself, raised their children, and now, against all odds, found her way back to him. Gregory waited at the bottom of the stairs to walk her down the aisle. "Ready?" he asked, offering his arm. "Ready," Amira confirmed. The music began, and the doors opened to the garden. At the end of the aisle, Cameron stood waiting, his face lighting up when he saw her. Beside him, Micah stood tall and proud, so like his father it made Amira's heart ache with joy. Malaya preceded her down the aisle, scattering rose petals and beaming at the assembled guests, friends from Philadelphia, the Blaine family's social circle, Amira's colleagues from the hospital. Two worlds merging into one. As Gregory placed her hand in Cameron's, Amira felt the last piece of her heart slide into place. This was right. This was where she belonged. "You came back to me," Cameron whispered as they turned to face the minister. "You came back to us," Amira corrected, squeezing his hand. And as they spoke their vows in front of friends and family, Amira thought about the day she'd stopped Cameron's wedding, how she'd arrived with anger and uncertainty, seeking only truth for her children. She never expected to find love again, never expected forgiveness or second chances, but sometimes life surprises you. Sometimes what seems like an ending is really just the beginning of a new chapter, a better one. Cameron kissed her as the minister pronounced them husband and wife, and the gathered crowd erupted in applause. The twins rushed forward to embrace them both, turning the moment into a family hug. A family that had always been meant to be finally together, whole at last. As they walked back down the aisle together, Amira caught Eleanor's eye in the front row. The older woman nodded once, a silent acknowledgement of all that had changed, of wounds healed and bridges rebuilt. Outside, the photographer gathered them for pictures. Amira and Cameron, the twins, the elder Blaines, a family portrait 15 years in the making. "I love you," Cameron whispered in her ear as they posed. "I always have. I love you too," Amira replied, and realized it had always been true. Even when she'd tried to hate him, even when she'd convinced herself she was better off without him, her heart had never fully let go. Some loves are like that. They wait, they endure, they find their way back. As the sun set over the lake, casting golden light over the celebration, Amira watched her new husband dancing with their daughter, saw Micah laughing with his grandfather, noted Eleanor chatting warmly with Amira's hospital friends. 2 worlds, 2 families, becoming one. It wasn't perfect. There would be challenges ahead, adjustments to make, old wounds that might still ache from time to time. But they would face it together, all of them. Cameron caught her eye across the dance floor and smiled, that same smile that had captured her heart when she was just 15. Only now it held something more: wisdom, gratitude, and the kind of love that only comes from losing everything and finding it again. He crossed to her, holding out his hand. "Dance with me, Mrs. Blaine, always," Amira replied, taking his hand. "For the rest of our lives." And as he held her close, swaying to the music under the stars, Amira knew that sometimes the hardest journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations. Sometimes the love you think is lost forever finds its way back to you. Sometimes a day that begins with stopping a wedding ends, years later, with the wedding that was always meant to be. The end.